Welcome back to Podsauce, your podcast discovery show. I'm Alicia Renee.
And I'm Dax Holt.
Our next host covers the gamut of entertainment, all things about it, the whys of it, the wins of it, the who's of it. Host Abby Gardner of We Have Notes. Abby.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. I was joking with her when we were, before we started rolling, that she's in the original studio.
I love it. I love the clothes hanging behind it. It is. You know why? Because this is what I picture all podcasters around America doing.
Yes.
Is literally sitting in their closet, soaking up all the extra noise in there. But Abby, let's get to it. Give someone a brief description of what you believe your podcast is about that separates it from all the other entertainment podcasts out there.
Sure, because there's a lot of them, right? And they're great. I love them. But I say it's for the pop culture obsessed and the people who love them. But I think it's really in the tone of the show. It's really conversational. It's a really safe space to get into the things you're obsessed with in a way that there's no shame. We love what we love. We're into talking about it. And it's like going to brunch with your friends and having a drink and just letting the conversation go wherever it goes. I always say I run a very loose ship. So it's just a place to talk about all the things we love that we're watching, old things, new things, music, TVs, streamers, all the things.
And I was going to say at the top, at the top of your show, you get into a little bit about what you're interested in that has happened that week, and you give your kind of take on it before even bringing your guests. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
That is. It kind of started as a newsletter of the same name, and it really was, the impetus was I watch everything and I listen to everything, and people were like, what should I watch? I want your take on it. I know what the show is, but what's your way of analyzing it, or what do you really like about it? And so then it was a really natural. I have a lot of opinions about a lot of things, and so a podcast, really novel. I joked I was from my closet last year, just one of the millions of people doing that. But I think it's such a fun way for me to connect with friends and guests and just get deep into the things that we're really, really into, and contextualize it in a way I'm a total Gen Xer, so talking about the 90s comes up a lot, but also in terms of how it relates to today and all that kind of stuff, which is really, really fun.
It's funny, Dax, that you mentioned how she starts her show. I kind of likened it when I listened to it. I kind of likened it to the late night, Steve Colbert's and the Jimmy Kimmel's, because it has a comedic twist to it, as well as her perspective. Was that your intention? You kind of just wanted to do something that separated you from all the other pop culture podcasts out there? You wanted to do your open monologue. This is where I'm coming from, but I do have a guest coming on today whose opinions may differ.
Yes, definitely. First of all, thank you for comparing me in any way to those people.
Sorry. No, I just thought it was a unique way to approach it.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that I'm a big talker, like a lot of us on podcasts, but I wanted to inject my personality into it. And then if people wanted to listen to it, great. I'm a lot. I'm too much for some people. I'm just right for others. And so it's a passion project, and I want that to come through when I'm talking on my own or with a guest. And I think that's been something that's really connected to people. And when I hear from listeners and DMs and messages and whatever, they feel like they're hanging out with a friend. And I really, that warms my heart. It makes me so, so, so happy.
What episode would you say you got the most responses on? Maybe it was a guest, maybe it was a topic, because I like to point people, if they've never heard your podcast, to a specific episode so that they go and they kind of get the real essence of what your podcast is about. Is there any episode that sticks out in your mind?
Sure. There's a couple. Well, one that's really thematically very me. I did a whole episode with my friend Courtney about how we think Grease 2 is superior to Grease. So that's very true to the heart of the show. But I think one of the ones that got the most response was with the writer Robin Lee. She wrote one of my most favorite books called The Idea of You that has a passionate cult following. So I think that a lot of readers and really connected, and we got into a lot of other stuff, not just about her book, but I think that was a really fun one as well.
So I listened to that one, and the title of that one is called Hurts So Good, correct?
Yes. Yes.
So that would be the title of that episode. Hurt So Good, but I did check out that one. It was a good episode. Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
It's like a lot of people, like you mentioned, Abby started a podcast like during the global ponderosa that we've been navigating.
Changing it with P words.
Because it changes, does it not? Like because it has been changing, and so it can be challenging, to get guests on the show. But your show doesn't lack any guests. What goes into that process of, who you want to, converse with on your podcast?
Yeah, it really started with my friends, and I come from a media background. So I worked in magazines and digital editorial media for years. So a lot of my friends are also in entertainment and media. So they were pretty comfortable coming on and chatting. And I happened to know what they're really into. And so it was kind of taking our text threads onto an audio platform, and the kinds of conversations that we have about our favorite shows or about Taylor Swift or Harry Styles or whatever it is, and bringing them to a larger audience. And then also it's just, I've been really lucky. Like, I was obsessed with Station 11. I think it's one of the best shows in many, many years. And another friend connected me with a producer from the show. And so I could really fangirl out and like nerd out about the show with her, which was really fun. We hadn't known each other previously. So
what's Station 11?
Station 11 was an HBO show based on a novel that some people didn't watch because it does take place during a massive flu pandemic or after a massive flu pandemic. But I promise it's really not about a pandemic. It's about the way art that survives and humanity and kindness. It's like not a dark show at all, but it was really great. I think it will probably be nominated for a lot of awards next year.
Because I'm like, girl, humanity has not survived, babe. Let me tell you something. It feels like people are so much more meaner now than they were, prior to the global panda that we've been.
Pandorama.
The Pandorama.
Oh, that's so funny.
So watch the show, because it'll renew your faith in humanity. They're better people on the show than maybe in the world we actually live in right now.
It'll make me be like, can they just cast me so I can live in that space?
So Abby, if anyone's listened to your podcast, they would know that you are a huge Harry Styles fan. You're a huge Taylor Swift fan. Where does this love come from?
I have loved Taylor since her first album. I always say, I'm like, if she ever wants another redhead named Abigail to be friends with, I'm here as a big sister figure. And I love music. I grew up around a lot of music. I cannot play music, but I've always been like a big live music person, and it just enriches me so much. And then when you get into the fandoms so I really deeply, deeply love both of their songwriting and music, but then you dive into the fandom of it all. And for someone who's as obsessive as I am, like, to get in and all the clues and the teasing and the, like, is this an Easter egg? Are we making this up? Are we crazy? Probably, but also we might be right. And I love that kind of like internet detective aspect of the fandom, and you kind of find this little subculture of, I've made new friends through being fans of these people. So it brings me an enormous amount of joy and stress and heartache at times.
Not stress. She's like stress and heartache. She was like, and if Harry gets engaged to Olivia, we're revolting.
I was going to say, Taylor gives out the best Easter eggs of any celeb, so I can understand why that turns on that sleuth inside of a lot of people. Here's the thing. Sophie's choice. You can only keep one of them. Taylor or Harry.
The woman almost had
Who
a
do you
full
keep?
heart attack.
Oh my God, this is totally Sophie's choice. Can I choose me?
Nope.
Like, I'm gonna pull a Kelly Taylor from 90210.
You have to choose, Abby. Taylor Swift or Harry Styles. You gotta ditch one. You can only keep one. Who do you do?
I'm laughing so hard because I understood that reference from the 90210. I saw that episode. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Though I would have definitely chosen Dylan in that scenario.
1000%.
But obviously, Brandon sucks. But I think I have to go with Taylor, because
I'm
shocked.
Bye, Harry. Out.
You're
gone.
Shocked, Abby. Why?
She's gotten me through some really, really hard times in life.
Sisterhood of the traveling music.
She has a, and I mean, I like One Direction too, but if we were just going on solo careers,
fair.
she has a larger
catalog
of songs for me at this
Yeah.
point. But that is an impossible question, and you got me on the record with that. but Harry's house is coming May 20th, so that'll be very
Like, but just so we're clear, I know we're home still.
But Harry, I'm here. I am here for you.
I think the thing that I love about your podcast, Abby, is that although it runs the gamut in the entertainment space, I haven't heard yet because, you know, it was a podcast that I discovered, you know, doing this show. I haven't heard an episode yet where it was like malicious. You know what I mean? It really comes from a fan's perspective, of lover of music, a lover of entertainment. Was that intentional, the approach that you've been taking with your podcast?
Absolutely. Because there are certainly things I don't like, and I can be like, this wasn't my, like, I had some notes for the show. We have notes, but like, I really want it to be a place where we can celebrate the things we love and to bring like a bit of happiness to any person who's listening to it, and to I really love these things so much, and I want that to come through, and the people I'm talking to about them do as well.
Yeah.
And so I very much wanted it to be like a positive thing. Like, there's enough cynical, mean stuff on the internet and in the world, and I mean, it's a very like Harry, treat people with kindness, you know, like that kind of vibe. But it's important to me that it brings like lightness to the world and not darkness to the world.
No, absolutely. I would say if someone was going to check out the podcast, I would say if you're a fan of like Who Weekly, or in case you missed it, I think that this would also be a podcast that you would be interested in, just because it's kind of within the same vibe and you know, that same like, let me catch you up to speed on stuff you may have missed.
Good tie-in.
So yeah, it's a good fun podcast to check out.
I love those shows, and I do like to do that too. If something's happening on TikTok or on the internet, like it's for people who might want an analysis, or like, I haven't had time. What is this? I keep hearing about it, and then I can like kind of fill them in. Yeah.
Now, Abby, this is a podcast discovery show. What podcasts are you currently listening to right now, or you want to get into that you would like to recommend to our listeners / viewers?
Sure. Well, I love Who Weekly. That's one of my favorites. I listen to it like the second it drops. I'm so happy to be in their esteemed company. But my favorite thing right now is The Deep Dive with Jessica St. Clair and June Diane Raphael, who you may know from their acting and writing careers. June has been doing How Did This Get Made with Paul Scheer and Jason Mantzoukas forever. That was actually the first podcast I ever really got into years ago. And so she and Jessica are best friends. I think there's an energy that I feel that is similar to what I try to do on the show, but they talk about everything from what's going on in their lives. You know, they're women in their 40s, kids. It's funny. It makes me laugh. It makes me cry. They've talked about the death of parents. They've talked about silly things like the eyelash strips that they love. It's really, it feels very honest and authentic to who these people are, and it makes you want to be friends with them. And I love that about podcasts. Like, when you feel like, I want to hang out with these people, and they have a lot of their friends on too, like Casey Wilson, and June has been on Bitch Sesh a ton, and I love Bitch, you know, like, so it's kind of in that they have this little circle of really funny, talented, and like vulnerable. There's a vulnerability to it too, and I really enjoy that.
I love it. Great recommendation there. And obviously, for anyone that wants to check out your podcast, you can head on over to podsauce.com. We'll put up a link to Abby Gardner's podcast, which is We Have Notes. And we got the notes, and we will help hopefully help push people to your podcast and check it out.
Thank you so much. This was great.
Okay, let me get to the done in a day, which is basically a quick podcast, something you can get in and out of. It's short. These are my type of podcast, and this one is only 5 episodes, all within like 40 minutes. So it is called Boys Like Me.
Talk to me.
So this is about the 2008 incident up in Toronto when a man drove his car down a sidewalk, killed 11 people, injured a bunch more. But they dive into what happened that day, but mostly through the eye of a really good friend of the man who did it, a childhood friend. So the childhood friend and him
Was he convicted?
Yes.
Murder.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
This is a big story up there.
Yeah.
So basically, both of these guys, they went to school together, and they were in special needs class. They had autism, Asperger's, and it was interesting the trajectory of one kid who kind of resented the world for treating him differently, where the other guy embraced the world and trying to get people to understand and accept that he is different from them, and here's why. And so it's really a long interview with this guy, and the understanding of his old friend killed a bunch of people, and now he has this kind of hatred inside of him. But he was friended on Facebook, and so he was one of the first people that the cops wanted to talk to, because the killer didn't have a lot of friends on Facebook, and he happened to be one of them. Really, it's a fascinating story, but I think the guy's doing it because he wants people to understand that just because you have a disability, you shouldn't be looked upon differently. And
so instead, I'm gonna be a murderer.
not that guy. That's the good guy. The bad guy.
Okay. Make it plain, because
no,
in my head, I'm like,
the guy who killed a lot of people, he turned on society. He started to feel that he was a part of this incel movement. Do you know what incel means?
I've been involuntarily celibate for I don't know how many years. I know what the incel movement is about. I am just choosing to stay in the light. But yes, I know what incel is. And Tim, if you don't stop laughing, I can hear you.
I can't believe you knew what that was. I learned about it on this podcast because that's what this
You've got a wife. You should not be an incel member.
So this man was he was upset with women, he was upset with his life, and it turned into a very evil thing inside of him, and that's why he wanted to kill people. But anyway, it's like I said, you can get this done in literally 3 hours.
5
if you'd
episodes.
Like to. 5 episodes,
said,
40 minutes or so, and it's called Boys Like Me. The show is coming to a close, but I know, Leash, you got one more recommendation for the folks.
No, this one will actually feed that murder most foul true crime podcast fanatic within a lot of us. This podcast recommendation is called Lost Hills.
Okay.
This one was really good. Season 2 actually is what I'm going to send you guys to, because I didn't check out season 1. Basically, in season 2, it just covers a man who's married. She has kids, he has kids. They Brady Bunch it up until the mother and the son come up dead. Yes. Now, the Innocence Project is involved in this particular case, and I'm familiar with the Innocence Project because the work that I did with them when I lived in New York, mainly because they really help, more specifically, persons of color get out of prison for wrongfully convicted crimes, or they'll get their sentence reduced, just various different ways. And so I only say that because they don't take up cases that they don't feel have a lot of meat to it. Be it a miscarriage of justice or whatever.
So were they on this guy's side?
They're on this guy's side, as well as the victim's family. They too believe that he couldn't have possibly done it for various reasons.
Interesting.
Now, the wheels start turning when, as you listen to more episodes, you find out the man has been previously married. There was someone who
What does she have to say about it?
Well, she's dead.
Well, that's an important fact. Holy moly.
You
So he's
gotta
got
let
two
me
dead
get
wives?
to it. I was about to say he was previously married. The cops got an anonymous phone call. Hey, this man's been married before. She did. Investigate and find out.
Let me
how
do my
she died.
investigation. He did it.
But here's the thing. I don't know how she died, so I don't want to put that out there. I don't want to put that energy out there because I didn't get to finish the podcast myself. I too will be finishing this podcast. But the dog also survived because apparently, the dog was also on board, as was his other 2 children, right? It just seemed to be just circumstantial all around. But they put all of these pieces together. A really good prosecutor, you have to say, put all of these different pieces together, and they came back with guilty, and he is serving life without possibility of parole. But again, the Innocence Project is involved in this case to try to get it reduced, overturned, and all those other things. So you have to listen to it. It's just like one snowball after the other. It takes place in early Malibu, where the celebrities were aplenty, the paparazzi were nil. And so everyday people like this particular couple could own a home that is now worth $3, $4, $5 million, in Malibu. And this crime during that time was just so salacious that they were like, yo, what is happening in our city? So
no, that sounds great.
It runs the gamut. It just covers so many different things. It's a really good podcast. So Lost Hills Season 2.
And I really want to check out the ending.
I
That means
would.
you did your job.
Duh. It's what I do.
So if you want to check out her recommendation for Murder Most Foul called Lost Hills, head on over to podsauce.com. We'll put up a link there. But there is
Season
so
2.
much more to check out on podsauce.com. We've got different articles, things that we don't even get a chance to talk about here on the actual show itself. So you will get lost in content, find out all kinds of great other podcasts to check out. And while you're there, make sure you follow us on social media. We're on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube at
All
the
the
Podsauce.
teams.
And you can find me at Dax Holt.
And you can find me at I am Alicia Renee. Until next time, be good to yourselves. Thank you all so much for joining. Bye.